well for us in the community. Thank you so much. Right, so now moving on, we're just in the last 20 minutes or so. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Ali Abbas Hussain, who is the Youth Strategic Director of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society. Ali is an advocate of the empowerment of young people and plays a crucial role in mobilising Scottish Shia Muslim youth. Ali graduated from the University of Edinburgh with a degree in astrophysics. I don't think I've ever met anyone with a degree in astrophysics. Actually, you always hear about people and must be super bright. So look forward to taking that offline with you, Ali. He uses interfaith and humanitarian activities as routes towards educating and building links across Scottish societal sectors. Ali uses his experience to improve ethnic engagement with public services and civic society, consult on community issues, improve the community's welfare by organising educational, social and healthcare initiatives. And finally, also manages projects that bring together people of faith and no faith in collaboration. Thank you, and over to you, Ali.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, it seems like we're lagging. No, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, firstly, thanks for the introduction, and it's a great pleasure to be speaking to yourselves across the board. On behalf of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, we are deeply privileged to have the opportunity to share. And as I said at the start, inform one another and be informed around a conversation that is very critical just now as change and transformation is about to take place within Scotland. And at the point of change, we always, as a nation, band together and consult one another, console one another, and act out acts of selflessness and community. So I hope that today's meeting, and it certainly has been until now, I hope it continues to be a reflection of that service and engagement. I want to inform tonight's discussion with a bit of background around a segment of Scottish society, which is the Shia community. We're a community who's been here for a number of decades, and very recently we've been participating as best we can in democracy, in consultation, and it's crucial, I believe, that as law changes, we try to ensure that as a community and as individuals who have private law beliefs and whose faith informs us on how we should act and believe, that we make sure everything lines up and harmonises. So as laws change in organ donation, it's crucial that we discuss laws internally within our own community to see how we can navigate the conversation. So I want to cover the opinions of Shia clerics on organ donation, and I also want to discuss a wider context of Islamic law as it relates to our community in Scotland. So with that, we begin with a bit of background, and I don't want the discussion to be too technical. Sharia is a word that's been bandied about quite a lot. What it essentially means is Islamic law. It's the legal paradigm, and contrary to popular belief, it's actually a very mature system. And the purpose of it is to smoothly govern the internal and external affairs of the Muslim community in accordance with religious precepts. Sharia is simply law, it's common law, but it applies particularly to Muslims, and it spans the domains of private law right up through to state law, how we should act as components in a society. Sharia is simply the body of law that's elaborated by jurists. Qanun is a type of law elaborated by governments, and between the two there's a synergy. And that synergy is the topic of today's discussion. It's how we, as citizens of a country, are able to engage both as members that follow the rule of law and members of a faith family following our own conviction and beliefs. So, to break it down a wee bit, Islamic law being a very, very mature system of thought, quite like Christian and Judaic law, has a number of different interpretations. There is no one set idea of what Sharia is. But all of these interpretations can be housed within two schools, the perimeters of two schools. And these are two words that many people no doubt will have heard. These are words that you can't escape from when you listen to the news, but many people don't understand what they mean. So the Islamic community is split into both Sunni and Shia. So we have Sunni Muslims who make up the majority of Muslims, and we have Shia Muslims who make up a large minority. So Islamic law as a whole can be categorized within these two. And we're going to today focus on the Shia opinion, which is an opinion that isn't too often heard. So Shia law has been for 1400 years, since the inception of Islam, elaborated by jurists and leaders who we recognize. And over the years, that leadership has developed into a centralized system. Right? We call it Marja'iyya. I won't be testing anyone on their memorization of Arabic terminology. It's similar to the Catholic Church's hierarchy, in the sense that there is some level of centralization and there is an understanding across the faith family as to who the people to consult are, who the people to follow are. Those people are the elaborators of law, and they're recognized as such for their excellence in both Islamic and secular sciences, and they are sources of emulation. So the Shia community, as diverse as it is and as scattered across the world as they are, take counsel from a very small number of individuals who make up the central figures of our faith. The two leading authorities just now, between the two of them, around 90% of all Shias are their followers, are Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, who resides in Iraq, and Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Khamenei, who resides in Iran. These are the two main sources of emulation. There are others as well. Now, these individuals elaborate on law from, as we said at the start, private law through to state law. So non-litigious affairs through to affairs that govern society and politics. So that's things from our rituals. It's how we deal with one another. It's when we practice our month of fasting, when we do our 5 times daily prayers, when we go on the pilgrimage, right up through to how we transact with people, the type of businesses that we set up. And behind this law, which is elaborated upon by these jurists, are certain principles. All of these principles come from the sources of Islam, the key sources, which are the Quran and the prophetic practice. A few principles that I wanted to place here, which form the basis of the organ donation laws, which I'm about to cover, are loyalty to one's country. So as Shia Muslims, and this is an embedded maxim within our Sharia, Shia Muslims must obey the law of the land. So within the perimeter or the boundaries of of civil law, the rule of law in the country one resides, we have the freedom to act upon our own law. But that must be within the confines of the law of the land. That's a key thing for us. That's interesting. That's also a reason why debate like this or conversation like this around policy change is quite critical for us, because we have to abide by it as every other citizen does, regardless of faith or background. And another principle is the idea of, the Arabic term is la darar wa la darar, which means there should be no harm exchanged within society. One mustn't inflict injury nor retaliate to injury with greater injury, which is a rule that all Muslims must abide by. And it's a converse way of saying, where we are able to help one another and do good and save lives, we ought to do that. And there's a verse in the Quran which says as much. So these will inform the next couple of slides. So we want to delve straight into the rulings of leading jurists on organ donation, which comes under, within jurisprudence, biomedical ethics, which is, as the other speakers who are a lot more expert practitioners of medicine know, is a very deep topic, and a very delicate one as well. So it's just as delicate for us. So I want to cover the opinions of the two main sources of emulation. When we act, we follow the rulings as they portray them. So when it comes to donation, we split them into two categories: donation before death and donation after death. So the main ruling for donation before death, which both Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah Khamenei agree on, is that as long as the donor would not be seriously handicapped himself or herself, there is no problem in donating one's organ, minor or major. Therefore, donating a kidney also would be permissible, provided the donor has another healthy kidney. So this is really critical for us. As a community who acts to serve other people, and that's the very message of this discussion tonight. This is a very crucial ruling, and it's one that we need to abide by. It's one that we need to raise awareness of. Wherever we are able to give and donate without it seriously handicapping ourselves as live donors, then we ought to do that. We ought to do that. It's good to do that. It's recommended to do that, and it's at the very basic level permissible fundamentally. So that's one of the key things. We are allowed to donate. The Shia community do a lot in terms of raising awareness of donation, whether it be blood transfusion, stem cell transplantation, through to kidney transplantation. This is something we need to work on, to build on in our community, because this sort of donation is permissible and allowed. The next type of donation is posthumous donation. It's donation after death, which is what this upcoming law change relates more directly to. For donation after death, there are differences of opinion, and as I said at the start, there are myriad interpretations of Islamic law, all of which are legitimate and valid, and Shias follow whichever one they end up following. So the conversation is important because some sources of emulation allow donation after death with conditions, others don't. So in harmonizing our need to serve society, our ideals of compassion and mercy, harmonizing that with our own law and the law of the country at hand is quite crucial for us. So Ayatollah Khamenei, he allows donation after death, along with, provided two conditions are met. One is that it is clearly expressed in one's will, and this is where the opt-out law comes into play, because the opt-out law is one's written consent opting in is one's consent to donate, and the opt-out is one's request not to donate after death. If it is clearly expressed, then donation is allowed after death, provided the next condition is met, and that is that the body after donation is not recognized as a mutilated body. So internal organs would be fine to donate, but external organs, which tend not to be the ones that are donated, as we've heard, it's internal organs, primarily lungs, hearts, pancreas, kidneys, etc. Those are allowed to be donated as long as it doesn't amount to mutilation of the body. And the reason for that simply is, to put it simply, is the sanctity of life and the vessel of life that God has given us is a gift for us. And many faiths agree that it is not to be mutilated or damaged in any way. So finding the balance between that premise and our want and desire to help others leads us to this ruling here. So a number of Shia Muslims will follow this ruling. A number of Shia Muslims will be allowed to donate after death. And those who are allowed to do so should know, and they have the right to self-determination as to whether they would like that. The second ruling is that Ayatollah Sistani, he does not permit it after death unless in very, very specific cases. And that's because his interpretation of Islamic law leads him to believe legitimately that under general circumstances it is not allowed for us because permission has not been given. So again, for those who follow Sistani, it's quite crucial that we understand the Shias, what we are able and what we are not able to do. And it's important for others more widely within policy making teams and other medical experts to understand where we sit on that as well. To finish up, I want to just go through implications of these. The implications of having different interpretations of Islamic law, some that allow and some that don't allow organ donation after death, is quite important, because it means community members have the choice, the right to that self-determination to donate or not in accordance with their beliefs and in line with the rights that the United Kingdom gives us. The other implication is that for those who are unable to donate after death, they are encouraged to carry out acts of service that are more universal and more applicable to them. So, for example, to be living donors would be massively encouraged for them. To help out those who are suffering or are sick and require donation would be encouraged for them. To do other things like blood donation of tissue and organs that can be regenerated should be done for them as well. So where they are unable to give, there are a myriad other ways where they can give, and that should be encouraged. And the other thing is, these same scholars encourage advances to be made in medical technology, and they encourage Shia Muslims who are unable to give back in certain ways to make sure they give back in other ways. And this is why Pushi's explicit statements have been delivered by these leaders on pushing for cloning and advancements in medical technology, so that over time there will be no need to donate, or the need to donate will be lowered. So these are quite crucial considerations and implications of the law change for us, and reasons why discussions like tonight's are really important. And with that, I believe I've come to the end of my slide. Thank you for your time.
Ali, thank you so much. And you have definitely educated us. This is, as I said at the beginning, this is the first Shia focused event we've had, and I've certainly learned something, and I'm sure others have too. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I know we wanted this a little bit shorter, but are you okay, for you and the organisation okay for us to have maybe 10 minutes or a little bit longer for questions? Ali?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So that in that case then, yeah, I'd like to open up the floor for questions. I don't think there's any in the chat bar, so if you want to just either put a question in the chat bar or come on, unmute yourself, put yourself on video and ask away for any of our speakers. Thank you. I can't see anybody. Can you see anyone, Bushra?
No, I think no, can't really see anybody. I think everyone's answered all the questions.
Yeah, good evening.
Oh, there's Sheikh.
Thank you. The question is to Brother Ali. Apart from the two jurists you have mentioned, is there any other jurist who has given similar or completely different rulings?
Thanks for the question. There are other jurists that have given other rulings. Ayatollah Sistani's ruling is perhaps the most strict, but he disallows it in general circumstances. The most lenient ruling is that of Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, who is another major leader within the Shia community. He allows it. He allows it regardless and irrespective of the organ being donated, provided, again, explicit consent is given in the will. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
Jen?
Yes, hi, Ali. That was really interesting. Thank you. Can I ask, in the situation where organ donation is not permitted, if that person following that ruling needed a transplant, would they be allowed to receive a transplant from a deceased donor?
So the question, yes, they would be allowed to receive a transplant from another donor that was a deceased donor.
Another deceased, they would be allowed to. Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah. Sure. Nothing in the chat bar, is there?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, clearly all of our speakers have spoken very eloquently and given all the information, and everybody seems to be quite content. But you can contact us if afterwards you think of any information. Well, through Bushra, you can contact and we can pass on your questions. So if there's nothing else, I'll just have a quick look again. Right, I wanted to give time for questions just in case anybody did have, but if there isn't, then in that case, it just leaves me to remind you, if you haven't already, please answer the 3 questions. And a huge thanks to all of our esteemed and expert speakers. You've really illuminated the discussion today. Thank you to all the audience for listening and being part of this and giving up your evening. To our co-hosts, the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, our fantastic funder, Scottish Government, and just to let you know that there will be a recording of this webinar available in due course. So it just remains for me to send you our very best wishes and hoping that you all have a much better, happier 2021. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.